Hey everyone, and welcome to this explainer. I am super pumped you're tuning in. Today, we're diving deep into the world of modern wireless microphone technology for content creators. You know, if you've been feeling totally overwhelmed by all the audio gear out there right now in 2026, or if you just really want your projects to finally sound as good as they look, well, you are in the exact right place. Let's get right into it.
Okay, let's start with a scenario I bet we've all experienced. Picture this. You just captured some visually stunning footage on your smartphone. The lighting is absolutely perfect, the colors pop, and that 4K resolution is razor sharp. But then, you play it back, and you have to ask yourself, why does my 4K video still sound like an amateur shot it? It's frustrating, right? The reality is, capturing great audio on a phone is a journey literally filled with hidden technical hurdles. It is the silent killer of great content. But hey, don't worry because we're gonna fix that today.
So here's our roadmap for this explainer. First, smartphone versus pro audio. Second, the 2026 spec trap. Third, workflow over specs. Fourth, the connectivity divide. And finally, number 5, mic troubleshooting and cleaning.
All right, section 1, smartphone versus pro audio. Let's jump in. According to documentation from Shure, and you know they're an absolute legend in the audio world, the main difference really comes down to separation. Think about it. When you shoot a video with just your smartphone, it's super convenient, right? The capture, the recording, the playback, it's all handled by the exact same device. But in the professional audio for video world, you actually separate your gear. You use totally different pieces of equipment for capture, recording, and playback. Plus, and this is a real game changer, you introduce a crucial intermediate stage, editing. That's where you process the audio, zap those little mistakes, boost the sound quality, and get it perfectly formatted for online distribution. Basically, that separation, that is the secret sauce for pro quality. Moving right along to section 2, the 2026 spec trap. Now, here is a crucial point drawn straight from Boya's 2026 wireless microphone buying guide. You have to avoid falling into this massive psychological pitfall known as the spec trap. The market right now is just, wow, it's a dazzling array of products. And honestly, it is incredibly easy to just look for the highest numbers, right? You know, the widest frequency range, the most complex settings, and just blindly pursue those super high-end features. But here's the catch. When you do that, you completely overlook what your actual workflow needs are. You're buying for the spec sheet, not for yourself. And this quote from Boya, it perfectly captures the modern philosophy. They say, when choosing a wireless microphone, workflow takes precedence over specifications. I love that. A truly good wireless mic isn't necessarily the one with the absolute highest technical specs on paper. No way. It's the one that seamlessly integrates right into your creative process. Honestly, if your microphone forces you to constantly stop what you're doing just to fiddle with equipment, well, it's failing you. It doesn't matter how impressive its datasheet is. Which brings us to section 3, workflow over specs. So to actually focus on your content and not the gear, you really need to evaluate 4 core dimensions. First up, portability. I mean, is it a mic you're actually going to carry every single day? It needs to be super easy to use and have a really long battery life. Next, transmission. You absolutely need a stable, long-range connection. There is nothing worse than your audio dropping out just because you turned your back for a second. Third is audio quality. And specifically, we're talking about intelligent noise cancellation. That is literally vital for modern creators who are always shooting in unpredictable environments. And finally, tech. It's got to have smooth app integration and totally seamless compatibility. If your mic hits the nail on the head with these 4 dimensions, you can basically just forget the equipment is even there. Okay, on to section 4, the connectivity divide. Let's take a look at some data from Reolink and impartially compare the 2 major connectors out there right now. First up, we've got Lightning, released way back in 2012. This is an Apple-only connector that's basically a tiny 1.5mm tab. Now, sure, that slim design was revolutionary a decade ago, but today, that narrow opening is practically a magnet for pocket lint, and it caps out at older data speeds and just 30 watts of power. Then on the flip side, we have USB-C. This is the modern universal standard. It's a 2.6mm thick oval, and the beauty of it is that one charger, one cable, and one port now work across practically the whole shebang: phones, tablets, laptops, accessories. Plus, it can handle up to 100 watts of power or more and handle massive data transfers. Understanding what port you're rocking is step 1 in making sure your wireless receiver is actually going to connect to your workflow. And that brings us to section 5. Mic troubleshooting and cleaning. Get ready, because this next point is a massive revelation for a lot of people. When your voice notes suddenly sound all muffled or your call audio is heavily distorted, I bet your very first thought is, oh no, my microphone is broken. But guess what? Most smartphone microphone problems are actually not hardware failures at all. No, they're blockage problems. See, the microphone sits in this separate, tiny pinhole opening, usually right there on the bottom edge of your phone. And over time, that tiny diaphragm just gets trapped by the universally annoying enemies of electronics: pocket lint, fine dust from your bags, and moisture from sweat or humidity. When it's surrounded by all that debris, that tiny membrane simply cannot move freely to capture sound. Makes sense, right? So, if your audio is failing, before you rush off to an expensive repair shop, try stepping through an acoustic cleaning process. You can use a tool like Fix My Mic Speaker. It's a free, browser-based digital cleaner designed specifically for that tiny microphone pinhole we just talked about. And it works in 3 super simple steps. First, you just open the tool. Second, you hit play on its specifically calibrated sound frequencies. And third, you just sit back and let those sound waves do the work. The frequencies actually create targeted micro vibrations right inside the microphone chamber. And those vibrations, they're designed to physically dislodge that blocked debris and actually eject residual moisture right out of the pinhole. It usually frees up the diaphragm in about 60 seconds. It's basically like a mini sonic boom for your phone. But, of course, preventing these blockages in the first place is always your best strategy. The certified technicians over at Mobile Fix Experts offer some really actionable maintenance tips for this. First off, actively keep your microphone ports clean and free of lint. Second, make sure you're using high-quality cases. You'd be surprised, but a poorly made case can actually accidentally cover up that tiny pinhole opening. Third, avoid moisture and water exposure as much as you possibly can. Water has this nasty habit of packing dust really tightly into the port. And finally, regularly update your phone's software. Sometimes what seems like a physical audio issue is actually just a pesky software bug.
Now, we do have to acknowledge when it's time to call in the pros. If that 60-second acoustic clean doesn't do the trick, or if your phone has suffered some severe water exposure, you need to act carefully. In cases of heavy water exposure, Mobile Fix Experts are very clear. You must power off the device immediately. Don't charge it, just take it straight to a repair center. If the mic is still failing after all your basic troubleshooting, you really need to seek out certified professional technicians. At that point, you could be dealing with a damaged microphone circuit, internal water corrosion, or maybe even a mic IC failure that actually requires precise motherboard-level repair.
Well, we have covered a whole lot of ground today, right? We went from the separation of pro audio to avoiding the spec trap, navigating connector types, and even diving into the totally fascinating world of acoustic pinhole cleaning. So I'm going to leave you with this thought. Are you ready to finally stop stressing over endless equipment specifications? Are you ready to clear out the blockages in your workflow and start building a smart, clean audio setup that lets you focus entirely on your creation? I want you to really think about how your workflow can improve today. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and I will catch you in the next one.